Hello everyone and welcome to a new video from Your Overwatch. I'm Eddie the Chump and today we're going to be talking the new Hanzo. Specifically, is he overpowered? Does his overall viability change with his new kit? And is he more or less accessible at all levels than he was before? To do this, we're going to be looking at the good, the bad, and the ugly aspects of him in his new state. Now obviously it's very soon after his changes went to the PTR and he is subject to possible adjustments, so we reserve the right to change our opinions if new data presents itself. For now though, let's jump straight into it. The good. The first thing I want to talk about is the speed of Hanzo's main projectile. Being buffed from 85 to 100 is not insignificant, and it's perhaps the biggest source of the improvements to his reliability, something that good players will immediately notice. What this does is make him better against targets that were notoriously hard to hit. Heroes like Lucio, Genji and Tracer are a great example of this. In our experience, the basic matchups he has with high mobility heroes have been improved slightly, with some notable exceptions which we'll cover later. Another detail is that follow-up shots at close and medium range will feel easier to a practiced Hanzo user. Your overall efficiency will go up if you have the mechanics to access it, and his close range use seems to be a lot more practical, even verging on being comparable with hitscan in some contexts. This is good news for him, as it also affects the velocity of his new ability, Storm Arrow, which is at the center of a lot of what's good and bad about Hanzo 2.0. The good aspects of Storm Arrow are that it's more reliable perhaps than Scatter was, and the player has more control over how they use it. I'm sure many of you are experimenting with how to best optimize it right now. We've found some of the best uses actually aren't dumping all the arrows at once unless it's against a large target at close proximity. Having 6 full velocity shots but with a higher rate of fire is more practical to place carefully than spam, and it can be very effective when used like that. It is, in our opinion, of comparable power to Scatter, but at a higher mechanical cost. You do still have to aim these rapid successive arrows. It's not like the old Zen charge shot where they all land in such quick succession they might as well be one big shot. More good news is that it is of comparably good use against Tracer as Scatter was. It's less bursty, obviously, but good players won't struggle in that matchup compared to his previous kit. In fact, in combination with his overall faster arrows, he's probably slightly better in that matchup than he was previously. It's a small improvement, like 5%, but it is there. He is arguably better against Widow as well, where he was already good, but because of how often he now has Recon Arrow, combined with how dangerous Storm can be down a lane, he stands a fairly good chance of winning that duel. There is also his new dodge to consider as well, as that allows him to perform much faster peeks against a target than he could do previously. He could jiggle peek an enemy effectively as he was, and he can still do that just as well. It's just that now he has a new tool to make space for his shot. The bad. Okay, so there are some contexts where the new Hanzo is slightly worse than he was before. One matchup where he might struggle is against Winston, who despite Hanzo's new dodge is now more favored against him. The reason for this is the practicality of Scatter versus Storm in a duel with a Winston. Scatter was so much burst potential in one shot, it could win this fight outright. Even if not, it could make Winston have to evade or get finished off by a teammate. It was a serious concern for the Winston player that he could just instantly die. With Storm as Scatter's replacement, that danger is lessened. Now, when a Winston pounces you and places his bubble down, you're very unlikely to be able to get enough shots off in time before he kills you, particularly if the Winston is good and outfootsies you in and out of his bubble. The window of opportunity you needed with Scatter was tiny, just long enough to get the ability off. Storm Arrow isn't quite like that, which is a drawback of what happens when you make a hero more reliable at the cost of instant burst impact. Another negative is that his improvements are not as universally accessible. Everybody memed about Scatter and how it took no skill to use, which wasn't exactly true, but you could guarantee value out of it somewhat with enough practice even if you weren't the best player mechanically. The same is not true of him now. The new Hanzo kit is better if you, the player, are good enough to take advantage. If you couldn't hit shots with him before, the new Hanzo won't make it that much easier. If you were good, you'll find him more applicable. This is one hero where we encounter the multiple meta problem. He's one thing to the highest levels and another to the lower tiers. The ugly. Now I say the ugly, but it's not really. The answer to the question, is he overpowered, is no. He's not. He's still too difficult to use to be considered that. Is he overall better than he was? Yeah, he is, like 20% better at most. But the truth is that he has a lot of nuance in his matchups and place in the game. He's been made more reliable, but only for the players who could use him effectively as he was, and to a certain extent, because of the flattening of his burst potential, less so in some ways. His place in the game, why and where you'd use him, is still the same. Hanamura attack first point, for example, or King's Row first attack. He still does his job well, perhaps a little bit better than before, but his reliability doesn't match that of, say, Soldier in comparison. He's not going to replace him for general purpose. Sure, he has pick-off damage, which Soldier doesn't, but that just informs where you should use him, which, as I said, is in the same places and contexts as his previous kit. For the absolutely top tiers like the pro level, Widow is arguably still better. It's hard to argue with the hit scan insta-kill that can evade effectively and be pocket healed by a healer who can follow her. Pro Widows are actually good against Hanzo as well, and we don't see that changing all that much. So yes, in conclusion, he is better, but we're not in some new Hanzo era all of a sudden. I know you guys will have a lot to say about this subject, so I really look forward to reading your comments down below. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to leave a rating. If you never want to miss another one of our videos again, please click the bell icon next to the subscribe button on our channel to join the notification squad. You'll be in great company. And finally, please follow the Your Overwatch Twitter. It's where you can find updates about new videos and other cool stuff. I've been Eddie the Chump, and until next time.